fall into the cycle of being misinformed, have your money taken from you, and see no results. That's the other biggest thing that I meet when I talk to people about nutrition or I work with teams. There have been teams in New Jersey, up and down the East Coast that I'll work with, and I'll work with them to take gluten out of their diet. And what they'll do is they'll start to go for gluten-free products that will be worse. It'll be worse for their system because they don't know what else to do. So we'll talk about what you can do when you are gluten-free instead of wasting your money on some gluten-free products, and some are really worthwhile. But the main point here is some of the ingredients in the gluten-free things they're trying to sell you are worse than the gluten itself. And that's really unfortunate. Where do you start? Because it's out of control. These labels, they can put on whatever they want to. GMO, genetically modified food, you're eating something in a science lab. I mean, where do you draw the line with some of these things? And also, who tells you or who tells someone that that label's appropriate? So gluten-free junk food is out of control. It costs too much money. Potato chips are gluten-free. So if you're on a gluten-free diet, oh, I want to go for the pretzels. I want to go for the chips because that's gluten-free. That's okay. Who are you kidding? That is trading one delusion. Your habits are a little out of control. Might need to tighten it up a little bit. Might need a little bit of structure. No, I don't want to tell myself I can't have something. I'm going to go for the gluten-free product instead of saying I can't have that. But all they're doing, they're making money hand over fist over what you're choosing to eat. And they're building off of your habits, because once you start to look for the gluten-free products, you never know when to quit. So it's in Starbucks, it's in Target, it's Sam's Club and Walmart and natural food. What is that? Isn't all food natural? Are you telling me that I have a choice between natural and what's made in a lab now? And that's a label? So Cheetos and hummus, believe it or not, those are gluten-free. So technically, they're okay. But one is very different than another. One has much more preservatives, one has sugar, one has things in your body that will not denature over time, and that's what's sitting around your stomach. The food that your body has no idea what to do with, and it's holding on to because it's like a little puzzle, and your body goes, well, let's figure this out in case we get this in the wild again. But we tend to eat these things and our body tries to understand what's happening, and really what we're doing is we're spending our money in the wrong places and in the wrong way. And that's the worst. And the other point, has anyone here ever had gluten-free junk food? Yeah, one raises his hand. I'm sure everyone's heard of something. But it's terrible. If you've ever had, and don't get me wrong, I kind of enjoy it now, rice crackers and these things, they're not so bad. But there are some gluten-free products out there that taste worse than cardboard. Hold on, I can only eat my granola because that's the only thing that's gluten-free. Vegetables. So, a lot of these things taste terrible. We think that we're supposed to eat it because we're programmed this way because they're using some celebrity endorsement to sell us gluten-free water that makes absolutely no sense. So we're eating more products, more sugar, becoming addicted to the chemicals behind the scenes that are really wreaking havoc in our body and in our athletes. These people are trusting us. They're trusting us to guide them. They're coming to you for the right information. And are you trusting somebody that's appropriate? Are you trusting somebody that can really take you in the right direction? Because the other lives are depending upon you. That means that you're charged with needing to find the right information to share with other people, because otherwise they'll grow up with misinformation and applying it the wrong ways, and it's out of control. Did anyone here grow up in the era of kind of hearing about Michael Jordan and the big plate of pasta before a big game? So that was kind of my ritual as a young athlete. I need a big bowl of pasta because Michael Jordan is awesome, and I want to eat what that guy eats because look how high he gets in the air. Well, that's just not working. All carbs are not the same. That's a carbohydrate. Is gluten-free pasta an equal exchange over for that? Or did that even make any sense? So not everything that is popular is bad. Gluten-free labels, out of control. The person in the restaurant, oh, I'm sorry, I can't eat this if this isn't gluten-free. Out of control. The things that they're putting inside the food that we're eating, out of control. The things that they're selling you that are not gluten-free, that have always been gluten-free because they doesn't mean that it's bad. So actually in Australia, very conscious country I was kind of mentioning earlier, it's funny that's where the Australian Open is happening at the moment, but they actually identified, because they're really into this now, they can really delve really deep into the story of the body, how it's processing, whatever it's processing, so they can cross-reference that with marketing, with how these people are telling you these fads are. So we can discern what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, but they've identified DNA genetic markers that say 50% of the world can develop a gluten sensitivity. 50%, 1 out of every 2 people has it, had it, will have it, won't have it, and that whole cycle. So learning how to tell when it's appropriate, when it's inappropriate is a really, really big deal. We'll be hearing more about this. But the way that I got off of gluten is because I wanted to reduce my inflammation. It was personal, I was selfish, I was in pain, I was on medication that I hated. I hate taking pills. So I wanted to do it any other way. I found out that gluten sensitivity, gluten increased your inflammation. Itis, the suffix at the end of every word, arthritis, osteoarthritis, tendinosis, tendinitis. Anyone ever had some of those things? Everyone in this room has had one of those things at one point in time, or you labeled yourself as having that. Oh, that arthritis is back. I hear kids like 10 years old. Oh, my mom says I have arthritis. Oh my God, are you kidding? But that literally can be linked to your food. That can be linked because you're eating something that you may or may not. And get this, it's not even to say that you have to stop eating that for the rest of your life. It might be the context and the environment and the time of year that's telling you that you have a sensitivity this winter, that next winter you don't have anymore. So it's really challenging us to kind of stay on top of our toes and be very conscious. But there are doctors out there who are leading researchers. I'm not going to quote it, but I can plug you into some of the resources at the end so you can kind of discern for yourself. And then you can cross-reference that with the marketing, because they're very good. They get me to buy all sorts of stuff I don't need. When it's on sale, I didn't want to buy it anyway, and I buy it. They won. So this is kind of really what started it in most of our lifetimes, the fat-free epidemic. Okay? Fat-free directly equals more sugar. You start to read those labels, it might have 0 degrees fat. I remember lower school and growing up, it was, no, don't eat that. There's fat in there. Not looking at the sugar content because no one knew. No one knew that would be such a big deal. So research is always changing. We're always having to stay on top of it, stay on top of our toes, what information is coming out, and how to connect that with our life. But fat-free cookies with 2 times as much sugar, so it doesn't have any fat, ridiculous. Yogurt made with I don't know what, 3 times as much sugar, and this fat-free dressing makes no sense. I just went to someone's house for dinner this week with my fiance, and they pulled out different salad dressings, and I still saw fat-free dressing. Has anyone seen that still? Okay, yeah, it's honest, yeah. It's still out there. What is happening? This is what resourced most of our obesity epidemic and the rise in diabetes, which boils down to blood sugar control. You can't control your blood sugar, which is way more important. That will tell you when you're going to eat again, when your sugar goes up too high and then drops. We will start to hear more about blood sugar and almost a precursor of type 3 or type 4 diabetes. They'll filter that language through. But everything is about balance throughout your day. Stable, sustained energy. And if you're falling for some of these tricks, or you're pushing it back against something that can really help you, you're only hurting yourself. And then if you have other lives that you're responsible for, you're hurting them also. Because they'll grow up either loving or hating something as an idea and never learn healthy skepticism to question everything that comes out and learn how to filter that through their body for personal experience. Has anyone here ever been hurt? Right? Chances are you probably don't want to do that again. When you touch something that's hot, oh, I don't want to do that again. But if your parents sit there and tell you don't touch it, come on, you're going to keep thinking about it until you actually touch it. So figuring out how to share with the people you care about how they can have their own experience is very important as far as developing healthy skepticism. What they're doing, and what's exacerbated our health issues here in America, is a science experiment. They are using our bodies with things that they're putting to hold food together. It's amazing. Has anyone here tried to bake recently or make anything? You need ingredients you don't know what they are. Things won't bond together like what's in that cute package. If you try to make things with 4 ingredients, that's not exactly happening anymore. So there's a lot of science that's happening, chemistry inside of your body. We are very complex, but the simple idea is to try to figure out what foods are actually going to help you and where you're going to spend time directing yourself or directing others with a huge waste and exacerbate health issues. So in this upper left-hand corner, you can see the mom who bought into the gluten-free idea, and the kid's like, oh my God, I love that triple explosion sour flour cake. This is amazing. And we can eat this because it's gluten-free, right, Mom? Or I can still eat my cardboard cereal because that's gluten-free, right? That makes sense. But what's amazing is we have these products that are gluten-free that are available in our grocery stores. But I can tell you, especially still after being gluten-free for a while, I still have to talk to the people in my grocery store. Or wherever I'm going, wherever I'm traveling. And I go to the fresh food section, and I ask someone there. Does anyone have pretty informed people at the grocery store? Anyone talk to them besides me? I'm weird, but I talk to everyone. Very true. So, but ask them how to make it. Ask for some cool recipes. There are gluten-free dating websites. There are all about the grains, Facebook. If you gluten-free, like a Facebook page, which Facebook is on TV commercials, it's crazy. But you can find some really great recipes to kind of mix things up. Otherwise, you'll fall into this, or someone close to you is falling into this, because we listen to social media and other media outlets to tell us how to inform us of how to lead our lives, but they are doing it to make money. They are not doing it to help you. So what do? Talk to the people who are taking care of your food. They'll give you some recipes, or they'll direct you to a cookbook or some resource, some product that will help you use what's gluten-free. And what's gluten-free are all these things that grew out of the ground. Gluten is a very, very, very small fraction of what we eat. But when we go to pull out kind of that idea in our brain, well, what else is gluten-free? I have no idea. I mean, if we asked you to write down now 5 gluten-free things without pictures up, sometimes it's actually really hard to do. So it's easy to dismiss an entire movement because we've been sold a pack of lies with our fat-free, our obesity epidemic. We're always looking for some martyr to say, that made me this way, and I'm going that way. And we can't do that. There's something to this whole idea. Just because of a few trend followers, there's people in a restaurant who want the gluten-free menu, and how we're helping our athletes choose when they're out, when they're with you, what they should eat the day before a big game. Okay, well, if you don't eat that big bowl of pasta, what do you eat? Okay, coach, I have to control my blood sugar. How do you do it? Do as I say, not as I do. We need to figure these things out. So there's something to this movement. There are a lot of resources that are available. It is a trend, but it's a trend of a movement that's going to stick. It's going to stick because 50% of the world has the potential to gain the sensitivity. This will not go away. But like we were talking about earlier, sensitivity can come and then go. You can be the same person who's gluten-free now who's eating gluten in a year. So knowing how to tell that and how to tell the people you're taking care of is one of the most important things. So as you can barely see the scale over here to the right, the idea is that all food's not the same. It's not weighed the same inside of our body. And what we're exchanging our money for our food, is not the same value. If you're spending money on a cardboard box that's non-nutritious, feeding your body sugar and a bunch of other crap, versus an apple that's cheaper, but there's a lot of people that say stay away from fruit. Anybody here know Steve Jobs? I didn't know him, but I know of him, right? I have a cell phone. Steve Jobs was a fruitarian. Right? That means he basically lived off of fruit. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. How could he live off of fruit?